Hey, ladies, so let's take a look at what this courage really means. It means like finally saying no to the 14 years on the committee or telling your grown children, even if they're teenagers, like telling your own children, even if they're adults too, come on, that they can figure out how to do their own laundry, fold it, and put it away. Or maybe it's wearing a sleeveless top. Now that we've got this, I don't know, it's called bat wings, is what I've heard. Now that we've got our bat wings, to go ahead and wear that sleeveless top in public because this is the time for courage. And newsflash, we are done like dripping, sweating, and being embarrassed or uncomfortable about it. This is part of what midlife looks like today, and we are not here for someone else's comfort. So today we're talking about what courage really looks like, not the movie version of it, but the everyday kind, the messy, the awkward, the sweaty, the absolutely necessary if we're going to become the woman that we are meant to be, ladies. So this is what today's conversation is going to be about. So it is taking a dissection. I've cut up as much as I could courage from all the research and all the readings that I've done. If you could see my library at home of all the books that I have on courage, obviously it might be a sore spot for me. Learning how to use my voice was my big thing. I don't know what it is for you. But today we're going to explore what it means and how to implement courage into our everyday lives. Because I'll tell you, the women that I have interviewed over the past couple of months getting ready for this, one woman out of the dozens that I interviewed, one woman told me that there was one time in her entire life, and she's in her 70s, one time in her entire life when she felt courageous. Ladies, it is time that we figure out what this word courage is for us, for you, for me. Grab onto it and use it as, our new security blanket. How about that? So let's take a look at the conversation of what courage really means and which way it turns. Like how do we implement it into our life? We'll learn from four extraordinary women, these women that I have interviewed, and they're from all over the globe, mind you, and all different ages, so that you can see and hear for yourself from these interviews of how women struggle with calling themselves courageous. And this word is super important for the coming months. Next month, when we get into clarity, we're going to take a look at the myths that hold us back. And then we're going to do, me, I always like to do practices, because if we're going to get it back here into our subconscious and have this courage become part of us, we actually need to do a practice. We need to reflect and do a practice. And so that's what we've got coming up for this month. All right, so courage to confidence. A lot of people, this is kind of like a chicken and egg thing. A lot of people tell me, oh, well, I have to feel confident in order to be courageous. Well, spoiler alert, there's not one bit of truth in that. That comes after. Confidence comes after courage. So, I hate to say this, but this is part of the truth, right? The concept for today is that we have to learn to struggle on purpose. We've got to struggle on purpose. And I don't want you to think that is, like I'm being negative, or that this has got to be hard. It's not about something being hard. It's about understanding that courage feels uncomfortable. It feels uncomfortable to do something for the first time. And you know how passionate that I am about that. So listen, as the struggle appears in everyday life, listen, uh, uh, do you need to get a mammogram? Have you called to get your mammogram yet? How many times do we put ourselves off in order to take care of somebody else? When if having our mammogram and getting that early detection is actually a way of taking care of somebody on a deeper level, because if we know that we are healthy and we're taking care of ourselves, then we can go ahead and give our energies to other people. You got that? Like, this is what's doable about courage. It's picking up the phone, making that phone call, like deciding that you don't want to do Christmas this year. You don't want to be the host, and letting people know ahead of time that you're done. You have had years of this and you're done. That, my friends, is a very courageous move. So today we're going to unpack courage and confidence in a way that's doable, that's real, slightly hilarious, because I've always I'm merry after all. But listen, we have to laugh. We have to laugh at this stuff because it's stuff that we've made up. These fears are generally things that we have made up in our head, and it's time to fess up and get moving, ladies, because we are going to take courage to a whole new level. So, listen, this is my story, and I wanted to share this with you because many of you that have followed me before have heard about this story where I was one of my, big aha moments of me being courageous or badass is that I was asked to speak at a presentation that the US ambassador to Poland was giving. That was a pretty big deal for me. I don't know if any of and how many other of you would think that that was a big deal, but for me it was a super big deal. I had never met the man. I don't know. I just thought he does put his pants on the same way that I do, and I try and reflect on that stuff. But the interesting thing about this whole thing was that, see where he's standing in that image on the slide at the podium. Well, he spoke, and then I spoke. And I spoke to the audience was a group of what's called 30 under 30. So 30 young professionals, all under the age of 30, from all American companies all throughout Poland. And these people had to go through a very arduous interview process. It's a big deal to be part of this 30 under 30 program that's put on by the American Chamber of Commerce in Warsaw. I'm one of their speakers every year. And so I knew the people in the audience. So I was already familiar with them. So that wasn't the hard part or the strenuous part, so to speak, because I had already presented to these 30 under 30 group. It was coming after the U.S. ambassador, and he's a very gregarious man, as you can see by his hands in the air. And I was very nervous about, going up after him and what I was going to say that was going to be to spark anything about this graduating class, because this was the graduation for this particular class. I had notes. I had practiced. I always talk about the mirror. I had practiced in front of the mirror, so I felt pretty confident in my abilities to present my message to this group. But when it was my turn to speak, as you can see in the image in the upper right-hand corner, the podium was gone. I had no place for my notes. I was given a mic in one hand, so the mic was not on the podium because there was none. And I was given a mic and told to go up and, claim my space. I all of a sudden had to freak out, actually. I mean, I was dripping wet on the inside, but uh, I knew once I got up there, this is the thing, ladies, I knew that I already knew the information. And the audience wasn't going to know if I had forgotten something, if I didn't say something in the right way, if I said, something, I don't know, that they didn't understand or know about or whatever. But I had to realize, I had to go back, I had to take a look at that fear and go back to that place of knowing. I knew the information, and all I had to do was share it with the people in the audience. So that's the difference when I talk about courage is kind of like the prerequisite to confidence. Now I made it through this. I made it through this talk. I actually got an applause, which I was, obviously I was really happy about. Because it was a graduating class and I wanted to leave them with something, some kind of words of wisdom. But it was that confidence had to be built. So I knew, because I had practiced, I knew that I had already knew the information. So that it was although I was uncomfortable because I didn't have a safe space around me, I knew that I knew that I knew the information. So change can only happen in with courage. Change just doesn't it just doesn't all of a sudden you wake up one morning and you're a different person. Like that doesn't happen. Change is built, change happens, or courage, excuse me, happens with change. And so this is the thing. And I know that I talk about this all the time, but our brain has circuitry in it for real that has neural pathways. And those pathways grow and strengthen when we use it just like a muscle, just like any other muscle in our body. Our brain is not a muscle, but our brain will remember and will recall things that you have put in it. And you can either put bad stuff in it or you can put good stuff in it. You can put good stuff in about yourself or you can put bad stuff in about yourself. It is actually a choice, and it is a choice that you make. And that's why I'm constantly talking about hail the FFT, do something for the fucking first time. This was the very first time that I had ever spoken with or on stage or near or met the US ambassador to Poland. I had to realize that I had been asked to be there for a specific reason. And I had to go to that place instead of letting fear get in the driver's seat. Ladies, we don't ever want fear to be in the driver's seat. That is not a place for it. Courage is not the absence of fear. Fear is always going to be along for the ride. Now, we have a choice as to what that fear does or does not get to do. But we can only do that, we only have that choice if we are present, as I was in this meeting with the 30 under 30 group. Like I was there, I was present, I was showing up, and I was very aware of all of my surroundings. So I could have said, once I found out about this U.S. ambassador thing, I could have said no. But I hope that you would not have said no either. That was kind of sprung up on me because I was asked to speak, and since I knew this group of kids, young adults, then I was like, yes, absolutely, I'll speak at their graduation. I did not know that I was going to follow the U.S. ambassador. Would I have said no if I had known that? Knowing me, no. I just would have been more freaked out than I was when I realized what was going on. So that fear I had to put in the back seat. And one thing that came to me as I was putting this workshop together was, I think, because if we can imagine that fear is in the passenger seat and not in the driver's seat, then maybe we could take that a step further and put fear on a piece of paper. So we're going to put fear on a piece of paper and tape it to the wall. And every time you are fearful, go ahead and write your fear on that piece of paper so that it has a place to go. And that ends up being the passenger seat, so to speak. So you're putting that fear in a place as a way to get it in its place with you in the driver's seat. Courage doesn't erase fear. It just refuses to let it drive. So, okay, I mentioned earlier that I had interviewed some women to get ready for this. And I did this because I find it so interesting that not necessarily that we have negative self-talk. It's just that these decisions that we make or these fears that we have that will keep us stuck are like they're we make them real, like we give them life. So, real courage isn't about doing something extraordinary. Uh, It rarely is. Courage is about taking these small steps, which is what I'm constantly talking about, is small steps doing the same thing over time becomes new positive habits. And so courage can look like, you wake up one morning or you're sitting at the kitchen table and you're like thinking about this thing that won't go away, this thought that won't go away, this dream that won't go away, and you're like done and you are ready. So let's take a look at Kirsten. Now, because of time zones, I'm in Portugal. Kirsten is in Nepal. So our time zone, and I had to take a look at these whole time zones when I was interviewing these women and decided to just ask them a set of the same 4 questions and see what courage meant to them. So I'm going to do a little bit of reading here. So I apologize if my eyes are, all over the place here. The first question was, what was the dream that kept calling? And I won't read everything that Kirsten wrote. I will put it in the notes so that you can see all of the answers that everybody has. So I'm going to take snapshots of it. So what was the dream that kept calling? So this is what I find interesting. It started as a knot in my chest every time I heard, "You ride well, ... for a woman." And after Kirsten recently, seriously, got her license in 2018, and she was on a men only motorcycle tour. She was the only woman. Kirsten has worked in areas where she has had to put herself in instances where it was a male dominated industry and she needed to stand up and claim her space. So, okay, so she's kind of used to maybe standing up and claiming her space, but on a male only bike tour after just getting her license, now that was a little bit challenging. So what became of this, you ride well for a woman, quote unquote, was she wanted to create a space where women can ride and grow together at their own pace. Now, in India, that's really not a thing, but that was Kirsten's challenge. And although she rides her motorcycle all over from New Zealand to Europe to all over Asia, and here are pictures of her in the Himalayas. So she's used to this challenge. Maybe she likes a challenge, or maybe courage to her is really pushing. But she said that she could see it so vividly. Like once she thought, really had time to think about what it means to ride as a woman in a space like Nepal, in a space like traveling, bike riding through the Himalayas. She actually could see, she said that she could see it so vividly. adventure rides, empowering women, the camaraderie that comes out of that, a camera strapped to the tank bag, journaling in roadside tea houses. Somewhere in that mix, the name arrived, Bike and Soul, and refused to leave her. So this is the thing. It's like this is part of courage. This is part of the journey. It's like that itch that won't go away. And sometimes we just stuff it and stuff it and stuff it. But it is the itch that won't go away. Question 2, what changed when I acted even when I was scared? So in 2001, she had nothing but a logo and a couple of these Bike and Soul t-shirts, which if you want to order one, I'll put a link in the description. Let me write that down. Link for the t-shirts because they are fabulous. It's a fabulous design because it is a journey to the heart. Bike and Soul is a journey to the heart. But she had nothing but this logo and a few t-shirts, and she did a solo ride to Western Nepal. The roads were long, the roads were rough, there were long silences, and the honest company of fear. And Kirsten and I would chat on the phone often during this time of growth for her. And she says, Mary, I remember that I called you from that trip crying because I didn't know what to do. And so, listen, courage may not come without tears. It doesn't necessarily have to have them, but it may not come without tears because we have so many fears. Fears is kind of wrapped around this thought of courage because it's the myths of fear that keep us stuck. So 3 weeks later, she came back a different rider. She launched in 2022. She launched Bike and Soul and partnered up with someone else for the first Nepal tour. She had 4 women, so 4 clients, 4 women, no profit, but vast experience. And that experience was like what she kept saying to her, what if this is meant to be? So courage looks like everyday life, setting a boundary and sticking to it. You don't have to go on a bike ride in Nepal. Courage looks like speaking your truth, even if your voice is shaking. I have done that many times. Courage looks like starting over, trying again, trying something for the fucking first time. So here are some pictures of Kirsten on her rides. And the picture in the middle is this side part that Kirsten added in where she noticed that on these tours that women mainly had no financial means for financial security. And she wanted to give women in Nepal and on her rides a way to support themselves so that they didn't have to end up in bad relationships just because that was the only way that they could live or get a roof over their head. So Kirsten started a project where some of the income that comes from these bike rides goes to purchase bikes for women in these regions. And this particular woman that is here in the middle picture with Kirsten, she actually was able to purchase a bike for her. And now this woman owns a courier service where she couriers messages from village to village around, and she's able to make her own money, which is unusual for these areas. So this is what can happen when you become courageous, because the outpouring of yourself and the outpouring of community that you have built all comes together for the greater good, because courage is not the absence of fear, it's doing it while your knees are knocking. So, what surprised Kirsten about herself? She said that the fear didn't vanish, it relocated. It relocated from the driver's seat to the passenger seat. It relocated from the driver's seat to the passenger seat because she still had, it was still new every time, going over river crossings, loose gravel, tight hairpin turns. All of these things are new and different every single time she rides. She's got women with her that she's responsible for. So the fear no longer vetoes her choices. So what she says to the women that are still waiting to feel ready, you don't need to feel ready. You need a first step. She said mine was a logo and a t-shirt and a solo ride around a lake. Start local, learn global. Nepal, she says, taught her to build from what I knew. So uh, you know, you've got to take these small steps so that you can get that footing that you feel underneath you. Build your lane, then invite others. If the room doesn't fit you, make a new room. Bike and Soul began as a name in my notebook. Now it's a place where women ride, hold a map, and own their story. Isn't that amazing? Like, that is so super cool. So for the rest of this interview, you'll find it in the notes. Now, this is Bridget, and Bridget was from America. Kirsten is in Nepal. She's originally from Germany, but is in Nepal. Bridget had a dream. She's from the US. She was a real estate agent. And Bridget's thought was her her goal, or the dream that kept calling, was, my dream was to retire at 65. So how many of you ladies are at retirement age, in retirement right now, and still don't know what the hell you want to do? But Bridget had a dream to retire, and she's very goal oriented, and she loves vision boards and has attended many of my vision board workshops. And she wrote that date on her board so that she had something to shoot for. But then all of this stuff kept popping up. Do I have enough money? I'm single. What am I going to do? Where am I going to go? What am I going to do all day? How am I going to spend my days? All of these things, these fears, these, I'm not ready, I can't do this, I don't have enough, I'm not enough, kept coming up for her. And what she says was, she wasn't sure if she had the perfect amount of money to stop working. But the one thing that she knew, that she kept focused on, was that she knew that she could own less and do more. And that became her motto. So courage begins with that one thing. It's not the whole picture painted out, because it's not going to happen. It's not going to come true. The whole picture is not going to, you can't paint it and then just step into it. It's going to be la la land. That's not how it happens. So she had this one thing, this one idea: own less and do more. But she knew she wanted to travel and explore, and she had no idea what that looked like, because she was single and she had never done that before. So what changed when I acted was that she could feel the fear was dissipating, that she knew that she would never not feel fear, but that she could work through it and do things anyway, because she had this own less, do more motto. She ended up on her first trip to Spain buying an apartment first sight. She walked into this apartment after meeting a realtor, just kind of, haphazardly looking, walked into the apartment and said, "This is my new home." And that started her journey. The third question is, what surprised me about myself? That what surprised her about herself was that she can figure shit out. She doesn't speak Spanish. She had to get all of the paperwork done, all the legalities done. There was a lot of legal paperwork that needed to be done. But she knew that she had a background, a strong background in following procedure and getting things done. And she was able to lean on that and know that she didn't always have to have the answers or the skills, but that she could ask for help. Ladies, she could ask for help and seek others for their knowledge and expertise. And from the fourth question of to the woman waiting to feel ready, do it. Don't wait for others or for the stars to align. Just do it. So let's take a look at you for right now. Let's spot where you have already been brave. Because I know and you know you've already been brave. Write down 3 moments in your life when you acted bravely, even if no one noticed. A lot of times, we have done these small incremental things and they end up over time becoming this, this one step for Bridget was she took a trip by herself to Spain. That that step built on that momentum that she had created. So, what are these 3 moments in your life when you acted bravely, even when no one noticed? You didn't even have to say anything to anybody, no one noticed. What were those moments? And you can pause this recording so that you can grab your pen and go get your stuff. What were those moments? What did you do that made you act brave? What was the thought? Like for Bridget, it was that motto. She had a motto: own less, do more. For Kirsten, it was you ride well for a woman. So what was that moment, that thing that then helped you to take that first step and be brave, courageous? How did it feel and when did you do it? Now, the last question in this little ditty, and then I'll keep going on with the slideshow, is what have you learned? Now, the interesting thing about Bridget's transition here was that she was a luxury real estate agent and she had this role to play. And she was very good at her role and she was very good at what she did. But she realized that the only thing stopping her was fear. So being a single woman, not really knowing or feeling confident that she was financially stable enough to support herself by retiring when she wanted to, she had a lot of fear-based thinking that she had to put to rest. And I put these 3 pictures up of Bridget because it takes you through that transition of there she is as a luxury real estate agent. There she is, her first week in Spain. And now she's finally settling in. And you can just see from the image, like just how relaxed and, and free that she is. So courage often hides behind exhaustion, frustration, or strong something's got to change feeling. And this was Bridget's something's got to change feeling. She needed to make a change. 65 was coming and she needed to get the hell out of Dodge. And listen, courage is not going to show up at your doorstep like an Amazon Prime package, all ready for you to just open it and step into it. That doesn't happen. It's a decision, ladies. It is a decision that only you can make. So you are stronger than you think. And I wanted to talk about these myths because these are things that keep us stuck and will keep us stuck for a long time, like decades, if not longer. So, myth number 1, I'll do it, I'll get to it when I feel ready. Ladies, spoiler alert, you won't. Ready is a bedtime story that we tell ourselves to stay safe. You're not going to be ready. It's never going to be the right time to have a kid. It's never going to be the right time to buy a house. It's never going to be the right time to change a job or a relationship or do something that you've always wanted to do. There's never going to be a right time. Courage happens before you feel ready. It happens before that. Courage happens before, once we put fear in the back seat. Myth number 2, courage means going it alone. Never, never, ever have I felt alone in what I do ever. in any place that I am or have stayed or lived in the world. Like, never did I feel as though I needed to go it alone. Yes, did I have to ask for help? Yes, I did. Courageous move? Absolutely. But no, ma'am, no way. The bravest thing that you can do is to ask for help or admit that you have no idea what the hell you're doing. Like, yeah, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing, and that's okay. It's not okay to sit and dwell in it without asking for help. You never have to go it alone. Number three, if I were really courageous, it wouldn't feel this hard. That is so not true. If I was, oh my God, listen, look at this, Meryl Streep. Come on. Why would anyone want to see me again in a movie? I don't know how to act. So why am I doing this? I just wanted to let you know that this fear stuff, it creeps up all the time. It is hard. Courage is hard. It's supposed to be, and that's why it's rare and beautiful. Renee Zellweger. What are they thinking giving giving me this role? They don't know I'm faking it. She still thinks she's fake. She still believes she's faking it. Ladies, you're not alone. Sometimes I wake up in the morning before going off to a shoot and I think, I can't do this. I'm a fraud. Yeah. Have you ever woken up and thought that you're a fraud? Oh, ladies, hello. It's contagious. Once you make that move, all of a sudden, you'll begin to surround yourself with other courageous people. My shero is Brene Brown. Brene Brown is a professor that was studying vulnerability. She was, stuck in a concrete building, never had to go outside of her comfort zone, and then all of a sudden was asked to do a TED talk. She was flipping out. She kept telling herself, well, no one's going to watch it anyway because this I don't have anything good to say. I don't have anything of value to say. 60 million views later, Brene Brown is now one of the most sought after speakers for not only businesses but for programs around the globe. This is another one of the women that I was telling you about that I interviewed, and this is Chiaria, which I'm sure that I am not pronouncing her name right. She's Italian, so it should be, let's see, Chiara. Let me know if I'm right. Anyway, I met Chiara in Poland. She is from Italy, and she was a student going to the university there, which, again, I think is a total brave move myself, going from Italy to Poland for university studies. I think that in itself is amazing. But when I asked her these four questions, what was the dream or idea that kept calling you, even when it didn't make sense or feel scary? And she said that she had always wanted to, always wanted to write. And she had the idea of using her emotional writing as a political weapon. But she considered herself too sensitive, too meek, too mild to really use her voice in the way that she wanted to. And what she discovered was when she was writing, she was a completely different person. So she had to get into that spot, but she was the one that had to make that move. No one else could put that pen in her hand for her. She was the one that had to make the move, ladies. Writing with emotions or writing of emotions was what she felt could free her. So she decided to make emotional writing also her profession. Listen, this is the small steps I'm talking about. Now she's a PhD student. She's back in Italy. She's a PA student, and she puts in quotes almost at the end. And with it, with my I am too sensitive, I try to help people in need, especially women, making their voices and difficulties heard. Ladies, one step. She took a leap to Poland, of all places, to study, and then from there was able to see that she could use her pen and paper to actually change lives. What changed for you when you chose to act, even though you were scared? And she says that she always needed to feel as though she was in a safe place. And writing was that place for her. Writing about women's rights and thinking I could really make a difference made me keep going, even if I was scared, even if I was thinking I was not doing enough, even if I was comparing myself too much to others, and even when the political situation was not so cool. So sometimes life pushes you, and you basically need to push life back. What surprised you most about once you started? The fact that I discovered a whole new version of me. So, ladies, let's go back, grab your pen and paper again, and let's do this. Let's keep leaning into courage for you. Write down 3 areas of fear or comfort that is holding you back right now. Because comfort can also, you know, what's the saying? If you're not moving, if you're not growing, then you actually are in decline. So comfort can, we can stay comfortable and then we're not moving ahead. And that in itself is fear-based thinking. So write down 3 areas where fear and comfort are holding you back right now. So go ahead and pause the video and write those down. Now, when you come back, let's take a look at what areas of life were these 3 areas in? Were they in the same area, different areas? Where were they? What are you afraid of might happen? What are you afraid of might happen? And what might happen if you tried anyway? What might happen if you tried anyway? So now we have this amazing young woman, now PhD student, who has published her first book. She is doing speaking at women's events and creating this amazing world where she has found her voice by taking that one step. What would you say to another woman who is waiting to feel ready? She says, doubt yourself, embrace your fears, and change yourself. You can feel the path you are about to choose is the right path, only if you can question yourself and feel the fear. It means you can do it anyway, no matter what. Don't be scared of changing. Roots are beautiful, but they're also here to remind you that they are a witness to how much you have changed over time. I think that's beautiful. Courage starts by naming what scares you. You got to put a face to it. You got to put a name to it, because once it's out in the open, it loses its grip. So let's take a look at Agnieszka. I met Agnieszka. She's Polish. I met her in Poland. And Agnieszka, I said, what is the dream that kept calling you or felt scary? She says I met her when she had just come back from Africa, where she had volunteered on a whim to help build homes, schools in an African village. She did this, she felt a calling, and she just stepped into it. And from that, this really laid the foundation for what was to come in Agnieszka's life. And so the dream or idea that keeps returning to me is, even when it feels difficult, uncertain, or impractical, is the desire to accompany people in discovering their meaning of their lives, not only in therapeutic sense, but also in an existential one, a dimension that connects education, freedom, and responsibility. So what changed when you chose to act? Each time I broadened my perspective and I gained greater self awareness. So this happens when when you're able to reflect on yourself, when you're able to remain present and reflect on yourselves. And although she says, I didn't always achieve the desired results, I understood that I was on a journey, not the destination. That was the most valuable experience for me. The journey, ladies, not the destination. Courage doesn't always roar. It's about saying yes when you'd rather hide and when no one expects you to say yes. So you're going to have those naysayers around you that are like, "What are you nuts? Going to Africa? Like you don't even know anybody. You can't speak the language. What are you doing?" Saying yes when everybody expects you to go run and hide. Now, Agnieszka is one of the best presenters I have ever met, but she has, over this time, over these past few years, has become fearless. Like she just doesn't say no to anything. So, what I asked her was, what surprised you most about yourself once you started? And she said, at first, I was filled with an immense energy and commitment, which slowly began to fade over time. When I believe in something, I can give it my all to the point that I lose sight of my own boundaries. So she became aware of this boundary issue when, again, you just push yourself so much and forget your boundaries without saying no, right? Ladies, this happens. And feeling like I had to fix the world, like she was the one that had to fix the world. Only over time did I realize that this saving the world was actually an attempt to fill my inner emptiness, and that this way of acting served neither others nor myself. Pretty cool, huh? So that is this journey that Agnieszka is on right now of this unfolding. And what would you say to another woman who's waiting to feel ready? Allow yourself to feel what you feel. Allow yourself to doubt. You can always opt out, go back, give up. Have a support network. Take advantage of therapy focused on broadening your perspective, not just solving your problems. So now, for you, what direction is your courage compass pointing in? What is the calling? What is the thing? What is the itch that won't go away? For instance, it could be as simple as or as courageous as hitting send on that email that you have been hesitant to send. Saying no, thank you without over explaining. We do not have to go into story when we are saying no, thank you. That's not for me. That's not something that fits in with what I want to do right now. We do not have to over explain. Sign up for the class that you've been stalking, on Facebook when these classes come up, or you get something in the email and you're like, God, that sounds so interesting, right up my alley. And you put it in a folder in your computer somewhere. Go ahead and sign up for it. Learn something new. Be courageous. Speak up once in the next meeting, at work, at a PTA meeting, in a relationship that you're having with another person, your spouse, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, whatever. Speak up. Use your voice. Become the best version of yourself. When fear shows up, and it will, remind yourself that I am becoming the woman that I was always meant to be. So, ladies, this is your turn. Maybe it's trying something new. Maybe it's finally saying something out loud. Maybe it's letting something go. Now you can ask yourself this. I love this exercise. It's called the 10-second exercise. What would 10 seconds of courage look like? 10 seconds, because this is at 10 seconds, actually, if you look on your stopwatch, can actually be pretty daunting. But you take a 10-second exercise, which is what brave, insane thing then that you can do in 10 seconds. Speak the truth instead of sugarcoating it. Sign up for the pottery class that you've always wanted to take. Sign up for the trip. Sign up for the workshop. What is the 10 seconds of courage that you can do? Call and get your mammogram taken. Go get a pap smear. What is that 10 seconds of courage that you can do for yourself? What's the one small act of courage that you can take this week? What would happen if you stopped waiting to feel ready? And who could you tell? Ladies, this is all about creating these small steps because next month we're going into clarity. So we're going to take a look at the past 3 months that we've been through and begin to lay this all out and create the clarity to be able to celebrate how far that we have come in the past 3 months and notice these small wins, to celebrate that we have become so far in our courage practice. So let's make this practical. Think of that one small thing, the nudge. You know the nudge. We've all had a nudge. What's that one small thing that could make the difference? The phone call you need to make, the number in your phone that you need to delete or block. Maybe it's somebody you need to block. Maybe it's somebody that no longer fits you that you need to get rid of. Taking Facebook off your phone, taking Instagram off your phone, delving into more time for yourself. What does that 10 seconds of courage look like for you? And slowly, quietly, you start to recognize yourself again. That person, that you know her. She's been hanging out there waiting for you to show up. And now is the time. Who is she? Oh my goodness. I think that's me. Ladies, next month up is clarity. And as I said, we're going to take a look at what clarity looks like, taking our notes from the past 3 months and starting to lay that foundation, creating the path of clarity of words that we want to associate with ourselves so that we can step into this next best version of ourselves. Because courage doesn't erase fear. It just turns the volume down enough so your dreams can speak louder. Ladies, I'm so thrilled. I hope that this program was helpful for you on courage. Go back and listen to these parts. Make sure you get this work done because the more you put pen to paper and getting these thoughts down on paper, the brain and its neuroplasticity in these neural pathways is going to grab onto that information and help you to become this next best version in the Who Is She program. I'll see you next month for clarity. Ciao for now. Courage doesn't change who you are. It reveals who you have been all along. Who is she? I'll check you out next month.